sitting here, been procrastinating making this video for a while because I'm nervous, and if I actually put it out, then it's actually gonna have to come out. But I'm gonna be brave and bold and do it, even though I've been procrastinating for like the last 15 minutes. Oh, I need this. I do not need to make a certain thumbnail about a live stream that's like 2 weeks out. I don't need to make that yet, but I have this morning because this is the only thing pretty much on my to-do list for today. And yet I've not wanted to do it because it's scary. But here I am, and I'm gonna do it. So now is the time to talk about my upcoming work, the fantasy series I have been kind of hinting at here and there. We're going to dive in and talk about it, and I am going to have something to announce. Just stay tuned. So I posted on Instagram briefly about this, but I'm gonna just reshare it just to reshare it. Basically, I posted how I got the idea for this series, and that was actually by scrolling on Facebook. Weirdly enough, that's certainly never happened before, but I saw this post that was about actually reposting of a Tumblr post about Hades from Hercules, and how the original poster was saying, why do I relate Hades way more than Hercules? This is so weird, like he feels like me and I like him more, and he feels like a real person. And someone said below is because in stories, like so much of the time, the writers make the hero seem so perfect. This perfect role model for us to look up to that's so heroic and for us to try to be like. Where the villains are so flawed and thus relatable as humans, right? Flawed humans. Because they have flaws, thus they're evil. But us being imperfect humans that just can't live up to this perfect heroic standard that is set all the time for people like Hercules, or if they do have flaws, it tends to be pretty flaws that are like pride, right? I mean, pride can get really ugly most of the time in real life, but in the story version, it almost seems heroic and, you know, displayed as good in some way. So, like they'll deal with arrogance and stuff, but they don't really deal with the same level or type of flaws that seems like most of the villains do. So many of villains seem to have a super traumatic past, and not that the heroes don't, but they seem to just have an easy time with their trauma. And I thought that was really interesting on their own, but then right below that post I saw this like one of those quizzes to see what flavor cake you are or whatever, but this particular one was, which chosen one are you? Using the chosen one trope, they looked at, different popular versions of that. Frodo, Katniss, and so on. So basically, like, which one are you? Pretty cool quiz. But anyways, I kind of connected those two posts in my mind and was like, what if I flip things on the head? What if I made the villains these chosen ones that are pretty much perfect, and their flaws are the pretty flaws: pride, arrogance, know-it-all. You know what I'm saying? Like, 'cause so many heroes, it's like, oh, they think that they can do it themselves. They have to learn that they need a team and the people around them. Like Frodo has to learn he needs Sam, which, not that that's wrong or anything, but that seems to be almost commonality in their flaws, which again, it's a real flaws. It's a real thing that we humans have to deal with, but sometimes it can be so overdone that it's almost unrelatable when you have villains that deal with depression and anxiety. And, we really like villains that aren't just greedy and power hungry, though that happens and maybe that's part of it, but then we also like ones that are innately flawed, like Loki, and how he, is greedy and how he wants power, but why he wants power is super, super evident in that he feels insecure. And that's not really displayed in Heroes to the same depth. And so I was like, what if I flipped it on its head and made a Chosen One trope backwards, kind of in reverse, in that these heroes are the outcasts, the super flawed, because in this culture I have created basically the flawed are persecuted. They are really seen as blemishes on society. You know, the culture is ruled by a religious organization, but basically the Ancient Ones, which is what the Order of the Ancient Ones, which is what the religious organization is called, serve this god Melegus, who promotes that perfection of all people and individuals is the only way for peace and harmony to occur. True peace and harmony. Everything else is false. So flaws must be erased. But basically, like a lot of, human nature is that we tend to pick certain flaws as worse than the others. And so these Ancient Ones, and specifically their leaders, which are actually called the Chosen Ones, not that they're perfect actually, but they just have this appearance of perfection, and their flaws are actually more of the acceptable flaws of society: pride, arrogance, whereas the heroes have these, more difficult flaws like cowardice and physical issues, at least from the Ancient Ones and Chosen Ones opinions, issues. And that was where the story kind of started. And from there, I got this idea somehow, of this living castle. And basically where it would become this sanctuary, where it appears to be a ruin, appears to be abandoned, appears to be just falling apart in shambles. And the truth is, it's magical, and it only reveals itself to those it deems worthy. But the castle's definition of worthiness is definitely different from the culture's. And so when these flawed people come in, they feel, depending on who we're talking about here, they feel threatened or scared, or it almost like brings their flaws out. In some ways, they have to deal with their flaws in order to basically come into the castle, and thus then the castle can see that they're not these prideful, arrogant people, and they are actually quite aware of their flaws, and that's what it deems worthy. But this first book that actually I'm going to be releasing here soon, more on that in a minute, is actually following the caretaker of the castle. And it starts with the caretaker basically being locked in the castle, depressed, and not wanting to really do anything with his life. And that's where the story takes off. And basically this caretaker, whose name is Victor Tolmes, he wants to stop the Ancient Ones from basically making people in that culture hate themselves for their flaws. And it's all based off of what he has learned from this one particular country in this continent, which is a completely outcasted country. It's almost like taboo to speak of it. Most of the citizens believe there are like monsters in there, and they're all just like criminals because they don't follow the Ancient Ones' belief system, and they accept flawed individuals and are flawed individuals. And it's not like they're proud of it, but they certainly aren't hating themselves and filled with shame and fear like the ancient ones do. So this is a very magical country, and we see quite a bit of it in through the series. We will, but it is definitely an interesting culture, and how it's led is very interesting, and you'll see why if you read the book. But I've had so much fun with the magical ways, and specifically all the magical creatures, specifically in the castle, because the castle is kind of a sanctuary for anything that could be persecuted by the ancient ones, and the ancient ones definitely don't like anything they see as flawed. So any kind of, three-legged animals, or blind, or certain magical animals they feel are threats. So it's been really fun to play around with that. And just the magical country of all the flawed individuals has been really fun, because they have a great sense of humor. And just basically, it's kind of like this culture under the ancient ones are kind of blind to what magic really is. And they have a very average, and most of them are very impoverished because of the ancient ones' rule. Ancient ones' reign, I should say. The ancient ones definitely really love luxury, but they aren't really concerned about their citizens and the commoners having the same treatment. The commoners should just focus on becoming perfect. That's what they believe they should just be focused on, not about, actually having good housing or good clean water or anything like that. It's more a belief of, survival of the fittest. If we have the power, we are deserving of these things. And if you don't have the power, it's because you are imperfect, you're flawed, and you are not fit to have those things thus. So it's kind of, if you have power, you take what you want. If you don't have the power to take what you want, you don't get it. So it's definitely interesting, totally polar opposite cultures I have in the books, and it's been fun to really write both and show the contrast. And basically people coming out of this culture where the ancient ones' reign was all they have ever known, and them basically having extreme culture shock, basically. They have extreme culture shock when they encounter this other country and anyone from this other country. But basically this castle is not in that country, it's in the ancient one's territory, and that's why it's hidden as this ruin. So it's definitely interesting because it's kind of has both aspects to it. There's many times where Victor Holmes, the caretaker of the castle, is really caught in between and is struggling, and that's kind of what the basis of this first book is him still having old belief systems from being raised under the ancient one's rule, and him trying to embrace this other culture's mindset of quirkiness and flaws and just a different perspective on it. So he's kind of caught in between, and it really makes a difficult place because they're so polar opposites. So for you to be caught in between is really kind of has made him non-functioning at the present time when the story starts. So that's a lot of fun. I don't feel like I'm completely explaining all this well. I definitely write better than I talk, but I'm pretty sure that's how it is for most writers. I guess I'll get into the announcements. So basically, the first book in the series is called The Dark Castle, which is a nod to actually what the villages surrounding and nearby that are under the Ancient One's rule call Heinefel Castle, which is the name of the series. The series is called Heinefel Castle because it centers around this castle. And so basically they call it the Dark Castle because to them it's like, they believe it's haunted, it's creepy, it's dangerous, and it's just this ruin, so they call it the Dark Castle. So it is a nod to that, because right now when it starts, it kind of is this dark castle where you have Victor Tolmes just hiding in it and not really doing anything. And it does seem to be quite a gloomy place at the present time. But I've really enjoyed writing this really struggling person. And they're all the characters. I already have the next 2 books written pretty much. So they're all kind of struggling in their own way, but he really knows the truth. So the next book's characters are different from Victor because they're learning the truth, kind of what magic is, what this outcasted country is, and who they are. But Victor already knows all this. He lives in a magical castle, and he, has been to the outcasted country and has seen it for himself and knows the truth, and that it's not as dark and dangerous and evil as they make it out to be. He considers himself one of them, but yet he's still struggling to come to terms of applying their belief about flaws to himself. So I thought that was really kind of an interesting psychological, different standpoint than the rest of the books that I really enjoyed writing about, his struggle with, you say the whole point of the series is, boils down to your weaknesses actually can be your strength, basically. But he totally sees that for other people, but he's having a hard time seeing it for himself. And I really related to that, I guess, and so it was really fun to write. Whereas the rest of them are grappling with that belief, weaknesses actually can be strength? That doesn't make any sense. That's wacko, He knows it, he believes it, and yet he's still struggling to believe that for himself. But the Dark Castle, the first in the Heineful Castle series. But I think that maybe possibly I might just do this. This is my proof copy. So obviously this banner right here will not be there in the final copies, but this is the cover. It is so pretty, and I'm so thankful to my lovely cover artist, Sledge Painter. Sledge, you're amazing. Look at this beauty. It is so gorgeous. Sorry, I have a bookmark in it. But yes, so again, the banner will not be there, but oh, it's so pretty. The cover, this little guy right here, is one of the main magical creatures in the castle, and actually Victor's like one of his best friends. Put to you that way. Very interesting best friend that has kind of been a fan favorite so far. But this guy is named Alexander, and he is ferociously adorable, and I love him. And so he is a magical creature I kind of made up. Had some inspiration on Pinterest, but yeah, so I call him a Drutas, which is a lion moth. So I think I'll just read the back for you because I worked on the back, so maybe possibly it'll give you a better understanding and summary of the book than I've been rambling on. So, in the land of Hymerin, which is the continent they live on, which I'm already going off of the book. Oh well. But the continent I was explaining that the whole series takes place on, there's several countries it has happenings in it, but the whole overall continent is called Hymerin. So, in the land of Hymerin, the religious order of the Ancient Ones have ruled over the people for centuries. They are driven by their obsession with perfection and the belief that the only way to obtain true peace and harmony among all people is for perfection to be achieved by all. But there are some that disagree. Hidden away in a magical castle disguised as an abandoned ruin is Victor Tolmes, a man who is everything the Ancient Ones hate. His face is scarred from burns. His personality is eccentric and wild. Once upon a time, Victor led a one-man rebellion against the Ancient Ones, but now he is nothing but a depressed hermit with no purpose and no direction. That is, until two old friends knock on his front door asking for his help. The request seems simple enough, but just like Victor's castle, nothing is as it seems. So that is the back blurb, and as you can see, I also have a art by the lovely Sledge of Alexander Flying. And this is just, I love this cover so much. I could look at it all day, all day, all day, all day. Anyways, so the big announcement is, yes, this book. And basically the announcement about this book is that it is going to be released and up on Amazon for sale on September 18th, which is a Friday. The very next day, September 19th, which is a Saturday, I'm going to have a bit of a release party here on YouTube, a live stream, and answering any questions and just partying and talking about it and stuff. Have about a month here till it's released. I'm going to be putting some things up on my Instagram with some character art I have based off of, and just talking about the world and the characters a little bit more. And I'm so excited, so excited. So that is my publishing plan. September 18th, have this book be released. So anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I am so excited about this book. My lovely, seriously, I'm going to show it as much as I can because it's been very difficult not to show it already. Even just backstage on live streams, I've been so tempted to pull it out because it's so exciting. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope I totally didn't ramble very confusingly and that you actually understood a little bit of what I was talking about. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you're as excited as I am. Probably not, because this is my baby, right? But lots of live streams coming up and planned, so please stay tuned for the scheduling on that. And as always, guys, be you.